All right, guys. So today we have my good friend Andy from Informed Choice and Informed Sport that's going to go ahead and introduce himself first, and then we're going to ask him a number of questions about supplements and safely utilizing them. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Andy, if you don't mind.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Holmes. I'm a business development manager for LGC Science, and I basically head up for North America the Informed Sport and the Informed Choice program.
Awesome. How did you get into this field in the first place?
That's kind of an interesting question. I got into it because of a kind of a diverse background. I was, taking exercise science classes like many of those people who were there with you or not with you during coronavirus. But no, I was a college athlete. Later became an Olympic athlete. So I was a drug tested athlete, and that's very important to kind of note because I had that perspective of being drug tested and understanding that process. Also, I worked in with the government as far as a military contractor. I worked for a military contracting agency, so I understood the military to a point. And that's one of my specialties is I worked with the DoD as far as helping prevent them from becoming contaminated and giving them education. And so I had that, but I've also worked in the sports nutrition industry. I had a diverse background from everything from retail to marketing to manufacturing. So I worked alongside and even in, the science part of it. So I had all that together and they said, hey, we need someone who has all those backgrounds and that could utilize them and be able to talk to different people. So I wear different hats. So if I talk to academia, I know where they're coming from and I know the information they need. Same thing with military, athletes, strength coaches, whoever, dietitians that I might speak to. And that's kind of how I got into it is they found me and they said, hey, would you be interested in this? And that's kind of how it went.
Awesome. So, with that being said, of those different groups, what do you think is the key information that college athletes should have when it comes to supplements and using them?
I think what's important is to know that number one, we take the stance that supplements are just that, they're a supplement. We always say food first and things to that nature. But, when it comes to the manufacturing and the safety of supplements, it goes without saying that these supplements are not always going to be as safe as they appear. And that's where we come in because many times these supplements, hey, it doesn't say it has anything bad on the label. My buddy takes it, all that. But if you're a drug tested athlete or someone who, doesn't want banned substances in their system, and when I mean by a banned substance, I mean a steroid compound, methamphetamine type compound, diuretic, beta blockers, things like that that can cause an adverse effect or even a positive drug test. That does happen. It does happen quite a bit. And there's case after case after case that does happen. And it's happened so much. It's made the rise of what we do very important on a national and world level.
Awesome. So, well, then building on that, can you kind of explain briefly what Informed Choice and Informed Sport is doing?
Sure. We're basically an anti-doping lab. And what we do is we have a two-part process where we'll go into a manufacturer that manufactures these products, and we will look at things from an anti-doping perspective. Many times when you talk to someone about supplements, they're like, hey, it's made in a GMP facility. Well, that's great, but GMP does absolutely nothing for banned substances. We're testing for analytes that are 50,000 times more sensitive than GMP testing. We're testing down to parts per billion. And there's only a few labs in the world that have the methodology to test for these banned substances that are on the WADA list.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what we've done is go into manufacturing facilities and we audit them to an anti-doping standard. We go beyond GMP. We're looking at things like raw material manifest, SOP, cleaning procedures. We're looking at equipment, any contact points throughout those manufacturing processes, anything that could cause a contamination. And then on top of that, we have two programs, Informed Sport and Informed Choice. And I'm sure many of your students take supplements. If you look on the side of them, you'll see like a little green check mark or what looks like a little gold check mark. And that's Informed Sport or Informed Choice. And there's a difference between the two. We basically will take We'll register the product. We'll take a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5 samples to register. So there's a history of banned substance testing. And then if it's informed choice, we're monitoring. So every month we're taking a random blind from the retail area where the manufacturer and the company has no idea where we're taking it. And we'll test it for banned substances. So if they're putting banned substances in there or they're inadvertently putting them in there, we'll find them. Now, Informed Sport is designed for elite athletes. And in that case, we're going to test every production run that's made of that supplement pre-release. So nothing gets released out of the manufacturer until we've tested it. And then on top of that, we put a safeguard in there. We'll take up to 4 blind samples a year from the retail level on top of testing every lot. So we do those things. And what it does is it really mitigates as much as possible the chance of someone inadvertently becoming testing positive from a banned substance in a product like that.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, obviously the good manufacturing practices, that's what GMP stands for.
Yep.
That obviously they can have, there's enough of the substance in there that you can fail a drug test, but not enough that the GMP would naturally pick it up, especially if you keep using that substance for a long period of time.
Well, what's interesting about GMP is, they're doing things on the manufacturing scale. They're not even testing for banned substances with GMP. So like, they're not even looking for that. That's what we do. It's kind of like if you had a pyramid and you're like, all right, we're going to do heavy metal testing. We're going to do label verification testing and all those things. And at the very top of the pyramid is banned substance testing. And it's so specialized. Like I said, there's only a few labs that can do it. And here's the other thing, you have to develop a methodology. Like, how much is it going to take for someone like you or me to test positive? How much, where's the threshold? Like, hey, they can get where can we put it to where we know without a doubt whether that athlete's 110 pounds or 310 pounds, whether they have a high metabolism, low metabolism, there's all these variables that they are not going to test positive. And the only way you do that is with experience. And we've been doing anti-doping for 57 years here at LGC. We've been doing finished product testing, which means nutritional supplements, for 17 years. And that's about 10 years longer than our next closest competitor. So we really are the gold standard globally. We have the most experience, and honestly, we're the largest company that does this.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, I learned something new today with the GMP doesn't even bother to do any testing for those things. So that's mildly terrifying. So it kind of lends itself for the next thing of, yeah, what would you say for like not an athlete, but a general person that just wants to be healthy and maybe wants to use supplements? What are some things to look out for? What are some things that you guys kind of see in the industry that maybe aren't people being, purposely putting things in there that shouldn't be, but just accidents that happen, mistakes that happen?
Sure. And that's a thing. GMP is really awesome. It's really important because it makes a big difference on the quality of the product. But when you talk about banned substances, you're talking about different compounds that can have an effect on the body. And today, what's interesting is people know more about what they're putting in their body than any other time. People, you talk to them, hey, what are you taking? What kind of protein are you taking? They'll go into, I'm taking an isolate, a concentrate, and this is why, and all these other things. And if you're going to that extent of, hey, I'm spending $40, $50, dollars on this supplement, you should know how, what's in there, and number 2, how safe it is. Now, when you have banned substance testing as part of that protocol, you're getting the highest quality tested product you can possibly get. Because like I said, that pyramid, it's at the very top. And so everything else has been covered. Everything else is safe, but then you have that extra layer of quality assuredness. And that would be something I would recommend for like anybody, because nobody wants those products and those things to build up in their system. Whether you're like, people are like, is this just for athletes? If you're drug tested, you work for the city, you work for the fire department, you work for the police department, you work for the military, which I work with a lot. All those people are drug tested. Now, the other thing too is like, hey, let's say I'm just a weekend warrior and I want to go to the gym and I'm trying to, just maybe lose a few pounds or gain a few pounds of muscle or whatever it is. And I'm trying to do something, and this was recommended to me. Now, you also have to think about everybody's different. People might have existing medical conditions.
Mm-hmm.
They might also be on medications. So if you're on a high blood pressure medication and you're taking something that could be inadvertently contaminated with a methamphetamine compound, that could build up and it could have a counter effect on that. Yeah, exactly. Like you don't want to be taking something like that could work against the medication you're on. So those are things to factor in. And everybody's trying to take care of themselves. So
Yeah.
you should think, hey, what's the best choice for me when I'm choosing supplements? It's always one that's been third-party tested for banned substances.
So, and yeah, thank you for touching on the medication and the interactions people could maybe have on accident. What
Yeah,
because the kids that I teach, some of them want to be strength coaches, some of them want to be athletic trainers, some of them are going to be physical therapists, work in the health field.
sure.
What would be kind of like the big things you'd want them to kind of have in their back pocket to pass on? And I know you've already given a lot of good information, but what would you say are kind of the big rocks, so to speak, that are important?
I think the big rocks are kind of like number one, not all supplements are made the same. Not all supplements are great as far as their quality assuredness. I think if they're going to recommend or take a supplement, um, it should always be third party tested for banned substances, no matter what. Because, like I said, it's at the top of the pyramid. That's the pinnacle of quality assuredness that you can
Mm-hmm.
get. And if they're going to be prescribing these things to, let's just take a strength coach, that's your name on that. If you're a dietitian or a strength coach and you recommend to me, let's say I'm a track athlete and I say, hey, I really would like to take this creatine. What do you think? And they're like, oh yeah, whatever. That sounds great. I don't know much about creatine. No, you need to take that next step, do your homework, be a coach to that kid and say, hey, look, let me take a look at this. Let me see if this is safe or not. It may look safe on the outside because this industry is full of marketing, but on the inside, it could be detrimental to not only that guy's health, but probably more to his career and yours, because now your name's associated with saying, hey, it's okay. Because the kid's going to get busted, and then he's going to say, well, strength coach told me it was okay. If you're a physical trainer, you're dealing with people to that nature, or let's just say you're doing occupational therapy. You're dealing with all kinds of people across all levels of fitness and health and age. And so you're dealing with medications, you're dealing with pre-existing conditions. All that stuff matters. And to give the highest quality of health, I think you need to make sure that you're giving the highest quality advice when it comes to supplementation.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. The next question I got for you, and this is can be for fun or serious. What's something that you've learned recently that was kind of unexpected or really interesting?
Oh man, that I learned something new probably every week. I think what's funny is just how much people don't know who think they do. And I don't mean to be disrespectful towards anybody, but like sometimes you see people like, oh, this is GMP. It's safe. I should be. It said GMP on it. I'm like, that
Mhm.
doesn't test for banned substances. And they're like, oh, and they should know that. I think something else that kind of shocks me is kind of the prevalence of, how often we find banned substances, and, what it looks like and, where it gets contaminated.
Mhm.
It's kind of shocking. We
Mhm.
live in a global world, but this global world, the economy is very small, and you see raw materials coming out of China, India, all over the place. And so the the need for someone to step in and say, hey, look, there's a standard that needs to be set as far as banned substance testing for substances on the WADA list to protect people, not only athletes and everyone else, but there's a need there. And the longer I do this, not because I'm employed by these guys, but I never knew this as an athlete myself. And so, it was kind of one of those things. I was like, I couldn't believe how easy it was for stuff to be contaminated.
Mhm. Well, I'll still remember the first time I ever met you guys when you guys were telling me about how much cocaine there can be on pallet wood because it's shipped all
Oh
over
yeah.
and like I was like, wait, what? Like you could fail a drug
Yeah.
test if you touch too much pallet wood? and then people
Yeah.
doing all this like pallet wood furniture. It's like, oh God, what are we sitting on? And
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting. You know, we're the only people in our space that go into manufacturers, and we'll actually swab down a facility with swabs, test those swabs, look for banned substances. Well, I remember that, you know, and I was told this, I wasn't there, but they like swabbed down some pallets, you know, that some product was on, and they found cocaine, a presence of cocaine in there. You know, and that's, I mean, you're kind of like, really? But pallets go everywhere. So it
yeah,
could be picked up all over the place.
yeah.
A really good story was we found norangeline in some calcium from China. Yeah. And so, you know, what I think's interesting about that, a lot of people always talk to me about, hey, this is just an athlete's certification. Well, what I talk to people about is imagine you had a mother or a grandmother that went through cancer. Perhaps she had to go through radiation. And during radiation, there's bone degradation. And maybe her dietitian and her doctor said, hey, maybe we want you to take a calcium supplement. And I know my grandmother would be like, hey, I'm going to go to my local drugstore and I'm going to buy the cheapest calcium I can find
Yeah, yeah.
because she doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to do what the doctor says. And so she does that. And let's say she is getting some calcium. Luckily, she's getting calcium. But perhaps she's also getting small traces of norangeline. And so, you know, that can't be good for someone who's just got, you know, beaten cancer.
Yeah.
And so you have all these factors that weigh into that. So, you know, stuff like that really surprises me. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh. And it has a practical knowledge for everybody, not just athletes. It's for everyone. Obviously, athletes, because there's so much money involved. There's so
Yeah.
much at stake when it comes to the sports world. But
Mhm.
even, you know, your grandmother needs to be buying products that are third party certified.
Oh my God. Just the idea of like, man, grandma got really jacked after chemo. That seems
I don't know if it'd be performance enhancing, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure it would
that's
be good.
real off label there. Jeez.
Yeah, definitely.
You maybe already have kind of touched on it, which is, you know, what do you wish you could tell more people that you're rarely asked about whenever you go travel around the world to speak? Well, when the world's still functioning, for that matter.
You know what? I think what surprises people the most is how, you know, what our footprint is, you know, how prevalent we are, how long we've been doing this. A lot of people are like, oh, you're a banned substance testing lab. You can find our products in 60 plus different countries. We've certified sites uh, that are able to produce products in 38 individual foreign countries. We have hundreds and thousands of products that are certified under us, and we are the largest third-party anti-doping certification in the world. And a lot of people don't realize that scope. You know, you can go to Australia, and people have talked about us. You can go to Peru. You can go to the Netherlands. You can go obviously into Europe. You can go into China now, and people have heard of informed sport, informed choice. Japan, where the Olympics are going to be, they know about informed sport and informed choice, and they trust it.
Awesome. One random off something you've talked about, obviously getting the quality. Does cost and quality and supplements, do those kind of like correlate, or do you see that like your real bargain stuff can be where you have more of the issues, but your top end stuff might not always be as good as you'd think? Just
Well, and that's a variable. Yeah, that's a good question, but it's a variable because you might have really garbage, and like the guy just wants to make a lot of money, so he jacks the price up. So, but you know, there's always a cost involved. Anybody who does banned substance testing, I can speak to that. There is a cost involved. What I can tell you is when we made our program, we wanted to make, number one, we wanted to make it affordable because we wanted people who were, let's say you and I start a supplement company, we want to certify our protein.
mhm.
Well, there's costs involved. We don't want to make it so cost prohibitive that, you know, the small guy can't do it, you know,
Mhm.
and so he's just, you know, has to take it, you know, and
Yeah.
we want to make it so like if you're trying to do the right thing and you're entering in the marketplace, it's an easy entry to do this kind of testing. But we also want to make it for like the huge companies who are already successful. They can add it to their quality assurance program, and they can say, hey, look, this is something we're doing to the masses of people who buy our product to help enhance the quality that we're putting out. And so we've struck that balance to be able to help the small guy and the little guy on both ends. But that's a great question when it comes to economics of it.
Oh, that's no, I really appreciate it. And obviously this is meant for fun. My students know how I look, and usually about 10, 210, and you are legitimately jacked. I remember the first time meeting you, I'm like, the dude that teaches people about supplements, like the ones that are safe, like
The ones that are safe.
man, I want to hear about this stuff some more. So like, okay, I gotta ask, man, how do you get so jacked? Like, what was your college sport and everything?
I did 3 sports in college. I did football. I threw the hammer, and I also was lucky enough to belong to Team Nebraska, which was an Olympic lifting club team that was run by my old coach, Roger DeGarmo. And
Wow.
I was busy all the time. My parents loved it because it kept me out of the bars. It kept me busy. I did trouble, too much trouble. And I was always in, the exercise science professor's office saying, hey, what can I do to repair? Because I'm always competing.
Yeah.
I'm worn out. And he's like, well, what are you eating? I'm like, everything. And he said, well, what types of food are you eating? And what I found was, that really made a difference. Supplementation helped because, that's, again, not a solution. It's a supplement. So it added
Yeah,
to it
yeah.
as a diet. But, getting big, like I come from a lot of big people. And, you should see my siblings. But I've been trained too. And, you get into it and you stay in it. Like I
Yeah,
tell
no.
people, I'm like, I go to the gym. Like today I got up at 4:30. I was at the gym at 5 and, left around, 6:30, 6:45. And I like it. I've always trained and I like the training. I like competition, obviously, but it was something that it's just stuck with me and I just enjoy it.
So what were your numbers when you were Olympic lifting?
I know I did. Golly, now you're putting me on the spot.
Hey, remember, it's the internet. You can always add 50
I
kilos.
can always add stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like anything that was recorded was probably really low because I had the worst form, and
Mhm.
like I was always an embarrassment to Roger. But no, I can remember when I went up to Lake Placid. I think I power cleaned like around 370, something like that. So that was a pretty big deal for me. So I
Did
think
you
that's what it was.
did you
So
do bobsled for the Olympics for a little bit?
you know what? I got asked to come try out, and me and the rest of the guys that went up there, we made the team. Unfortunately, I didn't stick with it. My family back in Nebraska, you'd mentioned how my dad
Mhm.
was on the ranch. My dad got sick at the time, and I went back on
Mm.
the ranch, and Coach Scheimer said, "Hey, look, we appreciate you being out here, and you're always welcome back." But I left that part of my life behind and went and helped and ran a cattle ranch for about a year and a half. So
There's nothing wrong with that. And dear God, power cleaning over three is something. And you were what, maybe like 230, 240 when you did it?
I, golly, I don't remember. I think I was probably somewhere between probably 215 and 230. I know for sure.
And you were, dear God, man, that's a lot of
So
horsepower.
yeah, it's a lot of horsepower, but it doesn't matter unless you can, push the sled down the track fast or hit the guy
Hey,
hard or know what you're doing.
I've been
So
told that I have technique optional with my lifting quite frequently, so I can't say much either. So that's impressive. Well, man, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you hopping on the line.
you bet, man. I appreciate you guys inviting me to come talk about this. Obviously, if you guys have any questions about the industry, myself, or any questions that are sparked from this conversation, I'm always available. I'd love to, be a resource for you guys and your students.
I appreciate it. Well, make sure I share your email so they got that way of contacting you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll send that over to you, and obviously it'll be available for them.
Awesome. Thanks again.
All right.